Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today we're going to talk business, the behind the scenes of the professional fishing industry. I want to talk about three things that often go completely overlooked and undiscussed. The only time I really ever engage in discussions regarding this is with other professional anglers because a lot of times we have questions that come up in our own career, and the ones we go to are other anglers that we know have similar professions so that we know how to move forward properly. So, what I want to talk about today are three things that are very, very important to aspiring anglers as well as just anglers that like to, fish for fun out there. It's important to know the difference, but I want to talk a little bit about insurance. I want to talk a little bit about taxes, and I want to talk a little bit about banking. These are three things that very rarely get discussed. As far as I know, I haven't heard anyone talk about this on YouTube, but like I said, I have these conversations with other people that I know, other anglers that fish professionally as well. So let's talk insurance first, specifically boat insurance. We'll talk a little bit of health insurance as well. Boat insurance is one thing that oftentimes I think is very misunderstood. If you're just a fun fisherman, you get boat insurance, and that boat insurance covers you when you're out on the water. But as soon as you become as soon as it becomes a job, most boat insurance out there does not actually cover you. Meaning, if you guide, if you tournament fish, if you are traveling to different states, if you have a wrapped boat, if you've got tons of electronics, if you're on the water doing media events, so you've got photographers or people on the boat with you, if you do not have the right insurance, you are really risking that insurance company may not cover you if you engage in an accident. I hear these stories all the time. I got to tell you, I mean, this is something I hear several times a year. I talk to people that are like, man, I got into a boat accident on the water, or I got into an accident driving home from a tournament, or a tree fell on my boat, all these various things. And what happens is they generally don't get everything covered. Maybe they get a portion, but it all comes down to not having the right insurance. Meaning, as an example, if I've got a wrap on my boat, which I do, if I get into an accident, a lot of times, as soon as I have that wrap, that all of a sudden takes me to a new level in terms of the insurance that I need. If I'm fishing a tournament, all of a sudden that's a whole different thing. There's just so many different facets, and I'm willing to bet you at least half of the anglers out there are not carrying the right boat insurance. So, what I would recommend is talking to my good friend as well as my old traveling partner, Brian Partak. He works through Ben Green Insurance. I will put a link in the video so that you guys can reach out to him if this is something that concerns you. Like I said, Brian's fishing the Major League Fishing invitationals. He fishes Toyota Series, so he's an absolute diehard angler. I've known him since he basically graduated college. We traveled together for 4 or 5 years. He was my co-angler actually. So everything he knows, he learned from me. Not really, but the reality is he's the one to talk to. He helps me with my boat insurance. So I'll put the link, check him out. He's definitely an excellent person to talk to regarding insurance. So that's one thing that often goes completely misunderstood. A second one I want to talk about is banking. Guys, we are self employed individuals. And I can tell you, I have had lots of trouble in the past trying to get loans for cars, for boats, for houses, for investment properties because of my profession. Meaning, when you go to fill out a loan form, you put a checkbox saying you're self employed, and then it says, what's your occupation? You put professional fisherman there. I get so many flags because of that. The questions are like, "What does that mean? You're out like on a shrimp boat catching shrimp? What are you doing? You're like a full-time guide? Like what are all the different things?" So there's a lot of questions surrounding that. The problem is if you go to a Chase or a UBS or BMO, the biggest banks out there, you don't fall into a good category with the banks, meaning they want a specific occupation that fits their system. So you go in there, you check that you're a financial advisor. They know what that means. they don't understand what an angler means. So one thing that I highly, highly recommend is to develop a great personal relationship with a local bank. The reason I say this is your local bank, you'll be able to sit down, have a conversation with the bankers there, potentially the owners of the bank, and they're going to get a much better idea as to what it is that you do as a profession and how secure it is, so that if the time comes where you need to take a loan out, they're going to be able to give you that loan because they understand who you are. They've got a personal relationship with you, and it becomes much easier. I personally have a relationship with a small bank called the Pineries in Stevens Point. They are phenomenal. They treat me great. I've been with them forever. If you're in the central Wisconsin area, I would highly recommend going to them because when I pull up, they know my name. That's how it is. When I used to bank with Chase, it was just one big bureaucratic system. Like I was a number, and if I didn't fit what they needed when they ran my information through the computer, they wouldn't give me a loan. Like that's just simply how it was. And the fact is, not only am I self-employed, my wife is self-employed. She's a chiropractor. So we have two self-employed businesses which are not real good for running through the big banks. So my encouragement to you out there would be to try to establish a personal relationship with a small local bank. That is something that will help you in the future, just because you'll be able to walk in there, explain what's going on, versus trying to go to Chase and go up the ladder, the corporate ladder, and figure out what's going on. It's going to be a pain in your butt. You're going to be better off working with a local bank. The next thing I want to talk about is taxes. All I can't tell you how often I hear people talk about, that they went and bought tackle and it's a tax write-off. Well, that really is questionable. And one group of people I would say you don't want to mess around with is the IRS. Like, the last thing you want to do is get audited as an angler because honestly, most people fall into the hobby category when the IRS is reviewing you. If you are a full time angler, you should be making pretty good income by being a full time angler. If you are not making much income at all and showing losses year after year after year based on fishing, the IRS is going to consider your fishing as a hobby. And the last thing you want is them going back through several past years worth of taxes and then saying you owe back taxes on each of those because you wrote off all kinds of expenses on a hobby. I know several people that this has happened to, and it did not come out well for them. They owed lots and lots of money. So my suggestion to you would be to, if you are a professional fisherman, meaning you make a career fishing and you want to write off all of your expenses, make sure that you've got a good tax preparer who knows what they're doing when it comes to the fishing industry, what things they can write off, what things they can't write off, what things may be depreciated. There's a lot of various things that go into an angler's taxes. I keep extremely detailed records of my expenses. I have separate accounts for my fishing business, so that everything is very trackable. And when I go to my accountant, it never ceases to amaze me the questions that come in as to where everything falls, in what categories, what can be write offs, what can't be write offs. And it's just one of those things that, as an angler, if you're trying to pursue a career in this, the last thing you want to start fooling around on are your taxes. So, these three things, guys, I really hope this helps you because if you are trying to pursue a career in fishing or you make some money through the fishing industry, you got to make sure that your insurance is set up. You got to make sure that your taxes are done properly. And you want to have good relationships with local banks so that when the time comes, you can get the loans that you need to buy a house, buy a car, buy a boat, buy hunting land, whatever it is. You're going to have a much better time with your local banks. So hopefully this was helpful. If there's other things that I forgot about in this video, throw it up in the comment section. And lastly, guys, just try to develop good relationships with the people that are good in the fishing industry. Like I said, like banks, good person that understands taxes, people that understand insurance. Those are the professionals. Make sure they're doing their job to help you guys out. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned. We'll have a new video coming out tomorrow.